it all together.
Well,
And making more decisions.
right. I mean, and this whole thing is in flux. This is
Yeah.
trying to get some images put down
Make it smaller.
and see how they look, so that see if that is consensus, and then what can we do to improve it, and then the people who weren't the ideas that are still evolving, hopefully we can incorporate those into the design as well. This is a good solution visually for showing that that's on that return. That's nice. Oh, with these post-its, that's brilliant. What is the relationship that you see between this figure, I know you spoke to this, the relationship between this figure and the people in the community?
For me, it's very important because 2 years ago I came to this region. Neither I know Pomona. And my first question that make in the museum, I remember, why is the reason this city is named Pomona? And they say because Pomona is a goddess.
Well, I see her like embracing and watching over and caring and, bestowing peace and bounty.
I just look at her as a kind of a pivotal design element. She's halfway between what we were describing as a kind of historical past and then a segue into a probable future.
I portray her by kind of a mother.
Okay. In this mural that I talked yesterday, I don't like one Pomona lay down because it's history that is lived there, this woman relaxing on the past, and she came not relaxing. She came to put fruits, collect crops, and work in the field.
So
and
she's
one woman
active.
relaxing
She was
is not
active.
working in the field.
I don't like the idea of a bear at her feet or her stepping on a bear because a bear is a wild animal and,
Makes a lousy footrest.
I just, I don't like the idea. So that's what I see her as. I don't see, this winged victory thing or anything.
What I'd like to do is give everybody a chance to catch up with you, be on board with this vision, and find a way to utilize all of the work that all of you have done. We've all got an investment in time and passion and talent. You've all done the research. And so identifying that reaction, that initial reaction, wherever it is in your body, if it's in your stomach or if it's in your forehead, in the clenching of your jaw, but identify that reaction to being told, no, we're not going to do it your way. That sensation that's so uncomfortable, just identify that for a moment and let's just let that slide. The other sensation to focus on is, what does it feel when you are absolutely convinced deep in your heart of a passionate belief? It's very different than your ego. It's not something that you want to fight for, it's something that you want to see happen. It's something you're willing to work for. So, as hard as it could be, let's just let that go for a minute. We've got a deadline that we're trying to hit. We've drawn from all of those components to create this and see if we've gotten, in fact, the strongest elements. In theory, this should have the best of all of your ideas.
This is the collage of everyone's input.
Okay, I got it. That's the transition where it goes from because for me this whole right side formally doesn't work at all. It's just too much detail in relationship to the structure of this. I mean, I'd get in here, but I think that this really doesn't work. I think this is I think it probably reflects a lack of conceptual clarity.
This has been so difficult for us all to come to a simplified, beautiful vision that it got lost in the cracks. We originally started with people there. We originally had Yolanda's train going across. We've got 10 different artists, all with strong ideas, trying to agree. So what we came up with is far from perfect, but we're trying to make it good. You know, we want to.
I understand that,
include
but you need to go
but-
farther. This could extend a little more in the future, actually, if it's going to be high rises and it's going to be development. I mean, here's the perfect space for it. That'll also help formally balance that. And also you get a longer period for transition, because after all, it was a really long transition. And in terms of, I mean, what do you want to propose? A vibrant city life, a vibrant balance of city and rural? I mean, what is it you want to propose for the future?
I kind of wanted her to stand out along with this figure, a graduate, kind of creating an oasis here of a market. And I had a very modern home there we're not quite sure if this is a flying car or not yet, but with a satellite dish and the
Windmill.
the windmill.
This one. It's an idea, but in this case, the goddess, she's holding the fetus right there in her hand.
Yeah.
And she's given life to the fetus, to the future.
These little transparencies were meant to be seen through, and that they represent line art or superimposed line drawings of deer, of strife, of graduates. They were all things that we talked about as issues.
I just envisioned some giant books here, just, you know, to show education on conservation, knowledge, peace, and goodwill. Because that, you know, if you have those elements, then the future is going to look better if people care enough to learn about those things.
I think the problem is you drew before you made conceptual decisions. Like you didn't come up with a narrative. What's the story you're telling? How long is the wall? 130 feet. This is a big story. This is a vision, okay? This is a big story. What happened? How we got from here to where it is now before it's going to become something different. That's a big story. You need to give yourself enough space to tell that story.
What if we pushed it back and didn't show the past, you know, the middle section we've talked about in our narrative of all the horrible stuff? I mean, my original idea was showing the way the future could go if we continue as we do. And then the goddess bequeaths us this vision of the future that is much brighter.
Why don't you use the building for that? Why don't you let the building help you with that? Where this is the bright part and this is the
Well,
blue
I'm just
part.
saying that then our vision of the future is only a quarter of the entire wall.
But it might be more powerful, even though it's a smaller space. It may have even more impact than if it was a
I
bigger
mean, you haven't
space.
come up with a convincing image of the future anyway. So I don't know why in the hell you want so much space for it. You've got all these kind of like symbols and little details. I mean, you've not really come up with a convincing image of the future. I was trying to actually make your life easier by giving you less space to do it in. So how would you represent harmony?
We're talking about a kid with a kite.
A kid with a kite, how does that represent harmony?
It's actually an antique kite with a futuristic car painted on it as a
And
flying
is the kid
car.
a boy or a girl? Because that's enormously, really? That's a huge issue. You're
It's a
going to
girl.
represent the future with a little boy and a kite?
No, it's a little girl.
I want you to look at this formally. Okay, that's what I'm trying to get you to look at big elements. And then you can, once you've got established big elements, it's easier to come back in there and develop areas of detail. But you've got too much detail and it's not formally strong enough yet to hold all that detail. And that's because I see that you're trying to give everybody a space to do their thing in the mural, okay? So, the goddess you've agreed on, 6 elements, okay? And I'd like to see you actually work, once we get the narrative, I'd like to see you work with the big elements, get the narrative, and then start thinking about whether you need any more detail, and if so, where.
You've described 3 parallel lines. What's in the past, and what do we want to have remain in the past? What do we have transitioning from the past into the future? And you guys have given that narrative line, and then you've got those elemental changes that are going to become this vision of clarity. So, I mean, I think you guys have described your mural, and Sandra's given you a great form for it.
Did good work, really good work. You did really good work.